Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and this video really is about understanding leadership theory a little bit. You know, what it is that distinguishes great leaders from other leaders. And so in this video, we're going to talk about some of the different theories that you may have heard of or may need a little bit of a refresher on. So in order to be a really great leader, you have to be effective. And part of being effective is really understanding what is it that other great leaders have done and what qualities do they have. So let's get right into it and talk about the leadership equation. Some of the earliest leadership theories out there include trait and behavioral theories. Trait theories focuses on qualities that the leader has, and then behavior theory focuses on the actions that the leaders do. So let's talk a little bit about trait theory right now. One of the most famous trait theorists out there was a guy named Stockdale, and in his time they really were trying to really understand the phenomena of leadership. And trait theory essentially just assumes physical and psychological characteristics that really account for being an effective leader. And in that, it takes in consideration basic intelligence, clear and strong values, and high levels of personal energy. Let's face it, you have to be able to get the job done, right? Some of the traits that Stockdale came up with was a need for achievement, need of intelligence, decisiveness, self-confidence, initiative, and supervisory ability, right? I mean, with leaders, if you don't have followers and you can't get followers to do what they need to do, you're really not a very good supervisor. So leaders truly need to be effective in moving people to accomplish organizational goals, right? Paul van Hindenburg was the second president of post-World War I Germany. And he used the trait theory for selecting and developing leaders. Two of the primary qualities for leadership ability included intelligence, either bright or dull, and then vitality, which is about the energeticness of the person or laziness of the person. Another way of looking at this is with a four-dimensional model. You know, you can have bright, lazy, dull, or energetic, and within each of those areas you can have different combinations. For instance, bright and lazy might represent a staff officer. Energetic and dull could be more of a frontline soldier. Bright and energetic, those are qualities needed to be a field commander. And then lazy and dull in order to be more of an effective level-headed leader. So just one of the early models to take a look at. In the 1930s, there was an emphasis on behaviorism in psychology, which moved researchers in the direction to study leadership behaviors versus leadership traits. So Kurt Lewin was one of these theorists who essentially broke down leadership into three different basic types. Autocratic, that's having a tight control of group activities, decisions that are generally made by the leader. Democratic, that's when the leader asks for group participation, and usually he or she uses a majority rule. And then something called laissez-faire, and this is where the leader essentially just supports their followers, and so it's kind of a hands-off approach to leadership. So autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. That was Kurt Lewin. The Ohio studies was really kind of interesting. They developed a leadership measurement tool called the Leader Behavior Description Questionnaire, or the LBDQ. And in that, they measured two different dimensions: initiating structure and consideration. So initiating structure is the extent to which leaders take action to define the relationship between themselves and their staff. And then consideration is the extent in which leaders take action to develop trust, respect, support, and friendship with subordinates. And so you could have high initiating structure or low initiating structure, or high consideration or low consideration. And so in this study, they found that there was a democratic style which is more beneficial for the group performance, and leaders' behaviors truly did impact the performance of followers. So an old theory, but it really helped lay down a foundation for other theories, as we're going to talk about. A very similar study was taking place at the University of Michigan by Rennes Likert. And in those studies, leaders' behaviors were related to worker motivation and group performance. So very similar when you hear about the Michigan studies, very similar to the Ohio studies, and they took a look at leader behaviors again. So in this study, it was either job-centered, either high or low job-centered, and then employee-centered, either high consideration or low consideration. So that's another leadership behavior theory. Wooten and Blake actually built on those studies a little bit and recognized that there are more than just those four dimensions. And they broke it down into what they called the managerial grid at the time, and then they call it, in more modern terms, the leadership grid. And it was developed by Robert Blake and Jane Wooten, and they worked together to really take a look at high concern for people versus high concern for production. So kind of piggybacks off of that philosophy. They gave those dimensions different levels on a scale from 1 to 9. And so, for instance, the country club manager has a high concern for people, but a low concern for production. An impoverished manager, which is more like laissez-faire, has a low concern for people and a low concern for production. A sweatshop manager has a high concern for production, low concern for people. And so the high is 9 and then the low is 1 on these scales. And then a fully functioning or a team manager is 9-9. High focus on concern for people and high concern for production. And then right in the middle is what's called the status quo manager, which would be 5-5, just for the sake of talking about these different types. So again, the major management styles and concerns are impoverished, low concern for production, low concern for people. Sweatshop, high concern for production, low concern for people. Country club, high concern for people, low concern for production. Status quo, medium production, medium people. And then fully functioning, 9-9 for production and 9 for people. So it really is an interesting model for us to think about. And again, here's how the leadership theories go: is you hire the leader based on the needs of the organization. So if you know you have a team organization that needs high concern for people, high concern for production, you need to be able to hire a leader that has that same orientation. Likewise, if you put someone like, can you imagine being the administrator for a hospital, and you can't exactly have the sweatshop approach to it. That's a high concern for production, low concern for people. Dr. So-and-so, you only did 5 brain surgeries this last week. We've got a business to run here. I need 15 brain surgeries every week, or you're out of here, mister. That style of leadership really won't fly. Do you kind of get the gist? So you got to have the, and likewise, if you're running a sweatshop, a manufacturing firm, and you say, hey Bob, how are you doing? It's great to see you today. Why don't you have some coffee with me and let's sit down and chat for a while? You know, that low concern for production isn't going to help your company stay competitive. So you got to have the right leadership style, and so you hire the leader with those needs in mind. Margot Morell documented Ernest Shackleton's endurance expedition, and in this behavior theory they learned that leaders must lead by example. They must be able to communicate their vision. They need to keep up morale, and they need to maintain a positive attitude. And so successful leaders are the ones that are executing each of those 4 points. So leading by example, communicating vision, keeping up morale, and then maintaining a positive attitude. Leadership contingency theories are really important. They hold that the most important leadership qualities and actions, they'll vary from situation to situation. So when we talk about contingency theory, we talk about models like situational leadership. And so leadership effectiveness really depends on a combination of who the leader is, who the follower, and then situational factors. What are the tasks that are involved? How much experience does the follower have at these tasks? What's the complexity of the tasks that are involved, and who all is involved? So leaders in different situations need different interests, values, and skills. A leader must have a bank of skills to draw from. And speaking of banks, a leader at a bank really should have different skills than a leader on a farm, right? And so experience versus new followers has to be considered. Situation factors including the job being performed, culture of the organization, and then the urgency of tasks. With contingency theories, results come when the ideas and deeds of the leader match the needs and expectations of the followers that are involved. And if you think about great leaders like Nelson Mandela and George Patton, they really had clear objectives that needed to be done, and lots of factors that needed to be considered. And you can't deny that Adolf Hitler was an effective leader, not a very good human being for sure, but he moved people to accomplish his goals. Transformational leadership is another theory that we like to talk about when we're talking about leaders. And Max Weber talks about the importance of charisma. And he went on and wrote that charisma is a set of qualities that sets an individual apart from ordinary people. So how charismatic are you? Are you endowed with exceptional powers or qualities? And so being a charismatic leader really helps you gain more power, according to many theorists. Charismatic leaders have a combination of different characteristics. They're dominant, they're ambitious, they're self-confident, and they have a clear sense of purpose, just to name a few. Charismatic leaders, when we're talking about transformational leader, generally are role models. They demonstrate the ability to accomplish things, and they demonstrate how people should treat each other. They have ideological goals, and they're constantly talking about being moral. They are able to communicate high expectations and show confidence in people accomplishing those goals. And they really ignite followers to be motivated. Football coach Vince Lombardi was another great transformational leader. So here we're talking about many different industries of leaders. And he used charisma in a way where people knew that he truly cared. He believed in hard work. He had the right answers, and he really believed in people along the way. And he kept the high bar, and he set, and he really took time to get to know people. So again, transformational leaders have a sense of optimism, charm, intelligence, qualities that raise aspirations of followers and move people to transform themselves and their organization to higher levels of performance. So when we talk about transformational leadership in the literature, we also talk about transactional. And we do this thing where we say you're either a transformational or a transactional leader. And transactional leaders are focused on results, but it's essentially do this and you'll receive this reward, essentially. But what we know is that transformational leaders very often use transactional qualities in order to get results. So rewarding people for accomplishing short, small wins, as we like to talk about. And so transformational leaders still are engaging other people and inspiring people to be motivated. So that, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, are some thoughts about the leadership equation. And I hope that it's helped you understand some theories that you might want to look into a little bit more. The contingency theories, trait theories, behavioral theories, transformational theories. But we'll talk more about leadership theories, and I hope that you're taking something away of value today. And more importantly, I hope that you have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it